Our next speaker is the author of The Black Tax, The Costs of Being Black in America. The Black Tax is the financial cost of discrimination against black people in America by people and or institutions that have conscious or unconscious bias. His goal has been to help create jobs and businesses and expand businesses in the black community by increasing the demand for products, services, and intellectual capital from black people and companies. At the end of this event, we'll be announcing 25 winners who will receive a free copy. It is now my pleasure to introduce the author of The Black Tax, Mr. Sean Rochester.
It's a real pleasure and honor to be here, particularly among such distinguished guests, to talk about this program. I'm particularly excited about it and look forward to it for two reasons that are of great importance. Number one, it is specific in that it is talking about pathways for advancing black entrepreneurship. Number two, we know that when programs are specific, when programs are targeted, when they are well designed and well funded and well executed, that they have transformative impact in terms of driving contracts and revenues for black enterprises, in terms of job creation and also wealth creation within our community. A lot of people will think and say, well, why do you need another program? You already have various minority programs. They've been around for decades. Why do you need another one? And the issue and challenge is that those programs, while well-meaning, are often very general. They're not specific. Because when we think of minority and diversity and inclusion, generally those terms are euphemisms for not white male. And who that describes is about 90% of people on planet Earth. It is not specific, right? So what we need are focused and targeted programs. If you think about the totality of minority businesses, women, Latinos, Asian, African American, who have employees, when you total all those businesses together and all the spend, for every $100 that goes to them, about $4 goes to a black enterprise. If you are thinking about being able to drive opportunities for black women by investing in women businesses, which is a wonderful thing to do, the challenge is of those businesses, only about 2% are for black women. If you're thinking about helping to advance opportunities for black enterprise by investing in Latino businesses, which we should do and continue to do, the challenge is when you look at the revenue that they drive and the portion of the supply chain that they're a part of, the black enterprises within that context is only about 2%. For Asians, it's 0 by definition. So the need for specificity is really important. The other thing that we have to identify is that the resources and the level of bias against these groups is not symmetric, right? In my book, The Black Tax, The Cost of Being Black in America, I quantify the financial cost of discrimination against black people in this country from the time of slavery up until present. And I talk about the fact that this discrimination emanates from bias, anti-black bias, both conscious and unconscious. And it's important that we understand that because all the totality of what we're doing is playing out in that environment and in that context. Very often people don't realize the significance of those bias levels. If you look at work from Stanford and Michigan and other universities, it said that conscious, explicit bias, people know what they're doing, is about 50% of the population. That's about 1 in 2. If you think about the unconscious bias, it's about 56%, closer to 6 and 10. If you look at the work that Harvard has done on that subject, they've had millions of people, over 3.4 million people have taken implicit bias tests. They're coming up with about 75%, almost 8 in 10, right? This emanates and it has a cost. What the researchers there say that they actually don't call it anti-black bias, they call it automatic white preference, which is a wonderfully genteel way of terming it. But what they say very specifically is this automatic white preference is predictive of discriminatory behavior. And they say that this is empirical truth. It's measurable. It's not an opinion. Now the challenge, what we all need to understand is that a group's ability to accumulate wealth is directly proportional to the level of discrimination that that group feels. right? And those levels have been significant and constant over time for Black people. That's why we've seen challenges in terms of paying higher prices for homes and financing, yet receiving less equity appreciation. That's why we've seen challenges when it comes to the job search process, or even our asset managers who are whose performance is rated more negatively, even though their performance is higher than others. These things show up, and they show up in ways that have economic cost. When you start to think about those costs from a firm level, from a Black business level, it's why you see Black businesses that have the same credit profile, the same risk level as their white peers, yet they're 2 times as likely to be denied the loan. Same credit risk, yet they're on average receiving 100 basis points higher in terms of the loans when they do get them, so higher capital costs. It's why those businesses are challenged in only receiving less than 1% of SBA lending. There are real costs and biases to these. 80% of them said if they had access to the capital that they needed, they would hire. Black businesses who have employees employ about a million people. 80% of them is 800,000. There's a lot of jobs on the table here. Now, sometimes people will say, well, why can't you just do what other people do, right? Which is pull up your bootstraps and grind and work hard and those things. And the simple answer is it's hard to have similar outcomes when you have divergent resources. If you look at our white peers, they have 132 times more business assets than we do. Per family, they have 115 times more liquid assets than we do, right? They're 5 times more likely to get inheritance. That inheritance is 10 times as large, and 91% of that goes to increase their wealth. Where 1/5 is likely, 1/10 the size of it, and only 20% goes to increase our wealth. There are real challenges here, but the opportunity is massive and significant. What the country is losing by not including the power and talent of Black enterprise is $2 trillion of GDP per year. The portion of that that's New York is losing is over $100 billion. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of businesses and jobs that can have transformative impact on families, on communities, on school systems. It's transformative. And again, my time is short, but the reason I'm excited about this program is that it is focused, it is specific, it is targeted, and we know that when these programs are well designed, well funded, and well executed, they have transformative impact. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Sean. We're excited to start tackling this issue for New York City's Black entrepreneurs.